Yeah. Run it up, Blondo.
Gathered apartment, I'm down in my socks on the 3-level yacht with some bottles of drink. Leaving a lot on the way to the bank. Big body smell like a pound of gelati. I made a pit stop with some Zion in my tank. A Birkin bag, hold a biscotti. My bitch got a natural body, it's not what you think. Switching my vehicle, switching my low. I'm not tricking on hoes, I'm just tipping my driver. Found me a plug out of town with the gas. I'ma cop me a bash at the city on fire. Crossing the border with Dora, exploring my cocaine whiter than Lizzie McGuire. Dog in the cell with a miniature Bible. Brody didn't tell, so I sent him a wire. Cocaine whiter than Jennifer Lawrence. The hair run, Michael B. Jordan's 10. 800 horses inside of the motor. I pull up on niggas, it sound like the Klan. We got a spot in the ceiling where we behind working the pills. Just unscrew the fan. Curbside pickup, just like Walmart shopping center. Thank you, come again.
Clone rifles. What are they? Why do they exist? Which one's going to get you the most women? And what's right in front of me? So since this is our first clone video, I figured we should kind of explain a few things, such as what is a clone rifle and why you'd want one. So pretty much what a clone rifle is it's something that a civilian does to clone a rifle used in the military. Pretty popularly, they clone rifles from SOCOM and stuff like that, and they try to get it as precise as possible because military versions are not the same as civilian versions that are sold. Like a Block 2 has a different barrel and stuff like that. We'll get into what makes this one different in a few minutes compared to just a normal URGI near clone that you can buy from Geissele. So the way people figure out what's actually used is they go off a few things. One of them is just either the SOCOM orders or people who have friends that are armorers or anything like that. And then pretty popularly, they go off in the wild photos, which is basically photos that are taken of that specific rifle that they're trying to clone that's being used currently by the service. So like, I know the Green Berets use a lot of the URGIs, and that was helped clone this rifle right here that you see in front of you. So we used a lot of in the wild photos to figure out what optics are actually being used. For me, it is kind of a difficult figuring out what mounts I can use because not every mount is the same. The SOCOM guys kind of can choose mostly whatever they want within reason. It's not just standard grunts in the military that just kind of get what they're given. They can kind of special order things that are a little bit different than what the standard guys can. Why would you build a clone rifle? And why wouldn't you go out and just buy directly from the manufacturer? It comes down to one thing. People want to feel better than you. So if you want to feel better than everyone else, build a clone rifle. No, but seriously, a lot of people do it because they were either prior service and they want to clone the rifle they used, or people just think it's cool and it's a little more of the quote-unquote unobtainium thing compared to, you know, people buying things off the shelf. They just like tinkering with things and building something of their own, even though it's not really of their own because it's a clone rifle. I have my own reasons. Other people have their reasons. My reasons are pretty different than most people. So what you see in front of you is a full clone URGI. URGI stands for Upper Receiver Group Improved. The thing that makes this URGI clone a URGI clone is the ring. That's pretty much what a URGI, at least in this case, is. So getting into the why again, why did I clone a URGI? Well, I thought the gold was cool. What can I say? But seriously, I wanted something I knew was going to last. And something, I hate using this word, battle proven. It's not the reason. I just know it's going to last through thousands of rounds. It'll be fine. I can toss it anywhere. And I don't have to worry about it. But it's also such a great conversation starter piece. I think all of clone builds are. Especially when you find those people that are really into guns and gun nerds or even cloners. It's just a good way to start a conversation. If you have this in your safe or just someone sees a picture of it or you're out, whatever. And guns come up or this specific thing comes up, it's a great start conversation piece. So I really like it for that, and that's kind of why I like clone rifles, because hobbies are all about just nerding in on things and finding your thing to just really get autistic about. And for me it was clone rifles, but you pick your flavor. So something you're going to see a lot when looking at clone rifles, and you're going to see a lot in this video, is that things are often reused by the government. And they're not going to go out and buy all new uppers, because when you're outfitting a lot of troops, that really adds up. So the government's going to cheap out, do a lot of cost cutting where they can for my vets, but they only bought the necessary items to improve or make it into a URGI, and then improve the Block 2 into a URGI. The difference between this and a Block 2, at least a non-front sight post Block 2, is the handguard, the charging handle, and the flash hider. That's really the difference between the Block 2 and the URGI. There you go. Video's done. Close this out. Goodbye. If you're wanting your short and simple, that's it. But to get into the nitty gritty, up front we have the Surefire 4-prong, and that's connected to the 14.5-inch Daniel Defense mid-length gas system government profile barrel, and it's got the Daniel Defense low-profile gas block on it. The star of the show is obviously the Mark 16 rail from Geissele. It's a 13.5-inch, and it's in the DDC color. Your actual upper receiver, it can only be a Colt upper receiver. This one specifically is a Mueller dog bone, and inside of it is a Colt or FN contract bolt carrier group. This one specifically is Colt, and your charging handle is a Geissele airborne charging handle, and again in the DDC color. So your rear sight, if you choose to run one, is going to be a Mautic rear sight, and your front sight is going to be a Knights Armament or CAC front sight in either taupe or black. There's a good amount of optics that you can run when it comes to being fully clone correct, and I'm going to have to look them up and read them off my phone because I can't memorize them all. So starting out, you have your Vortex Razor 1-6. You have the Night Force Attacker, which I chose. I'll get into this one specifically after we finish all the other options. There is the Night Force NX8, which is basically the Attacker, but in a 30mm tube instead of a 34mm tube. And then you have your EOTech 553, the EOTech EXPS 3-0, the Elcan Spectre DR1 or 4, with an L3 micro red dot sight or the Doctor Optic. You have your Aimpoint T1 or T2 and a LaRue mount or an offset mount. And then your Aimpoint Comp M4s, and if you want, you have your G33 magnifier. So this specific attacker is in a Badger Ordnance mount with an Acro P2. I have seen a few in the wilds of the Badger Ordnance mount. I haven't seen a P2 on top, but that's something I personally wanted, and I feel like you can kind of bend the lines with that a little bit. Harp on me in the comments if you want. I don't really care. I think that's kind of an acceptable deviation. It's a 170 mount, and the reason I went with the Badger Ordnance mount, I was going to go with the specific Night Force mount that they all go with, but there wasn't a 170 inch mount. It was either a 193 or a 154, I believe, and I wanted kind of that happy medium so I can still passively aim through the acro while also not being so scrunched down on my gun when I'm shooting. So when it comes to lights, going over the list of what's basically approved by SOCOM, You have your Insight MX, Insight WMX200, Surefire Scout Lights, and the Surefire X400 Vampire. I have seen a few mod lights out there in the wild, so I tossed it on there, and it's kind of just a light I had lying around, so I figured put it to some use right now. Eventually I'll get a Surefire Scout Light, but right now we got a mod light, and mod lights are dope, so I'm not going to say no to run one. Eventually I'm going to get an end goal and put it on the top, and that will complete the upper pretty much. You really only see PEG 15s, but I've seen a few end goals out there, so that's what makes me want to run one, because this thing can get heavy with a suppressor on it, and then a PEC, a tacker. It's just, it gets heavy. And yeah, I do more push-ups, I get it, but ounces still equal pounds. I hate saying that, but just whatever makes your life easier, that's what I'm going to do. And the end goal is very light compared to a PEC, so that's what I'm going to do. So when it comes to the lower, this one's a little bit different because it's a machine gun. It's the A1 M16 machine gun. All legal ATF, please don't shoot my dog. Thank you. I don't have a dog, but if I did, please don't. For most of the people out here watching, you're going to want a Colt A2 style lower receiver with the UID sticker on it. Most of the stuff is going to be mil spec, such as the trigger, unless you're running the Geissele SSA or the Geissele Super Select Fire. The safety, there's been a few AMB safeties, but for the most part, they're running just normal mil spec. The bolt catch bolt release is going to be a mil spec bolt catch bolt release. The trigger guard is a GI trigger guard and a CQD QD plate. So when it comes to the stock and the pistol grip, those sorts of things, like I was saying, they're kind of user configurable. They can pretty much choose whatever they want. There are a list of approved stocks, pistol grips, but for the most part, it's just the B5s, the Magpuls, and that type of stuff. I'll read off my phone in a second because it's too much to memorize because I'm pretty retarded. When it comes to the stock specifically, you have your LMT, soft mod, Gen 1 or Gen 2 in the black or FDE. Same thing goes for the B5 systems, soft mod stock. You have your Colt, CAR or CAR, your Magpulse CTR, and list says various others, like I was saying. So kind of just do you, you know? With the grips, same thing. You've got your standard A2, which is pretty popular. You have your Ergo grip, your Magpul, Miad, and again, the list says various others. So that pretty much wraps up the video, at least the first video on clone rifles. Let us know in the comments what you want to see next as far as, you know, those clone rifles. More than likely we're going to do the Block 2, but we have a few clone rifles, and if you want to see a specific one, let us know, and we can tell you whether or not we have it, and who knows, you know, since we're such nerds, we may go out and build one just for you. So your comment counts. That's really lame, but here we are. And I don't really know how YouTubers end videos, so I'm just gonna do this.